Hi, I'm Craig Norberg Bohm, administrator and coordinator for the North American Men Engagement Network, which we fondly call NAMEN. We're delighted to welcome you to our webinar today, co-sponsored by Wicha Agli, who are represented here. The name of our session today is Organizing Native Men and Youth in Native Communities. I will say a few words about NAMEN, tend to a few housekeeping points, and then introduce our moderator today, Jeremy Neville Sorrell, and then turn things over to him. So I'm just delighted. Let me see about spotlighting myself and see if that helps. Jeremy, if you want to admit people while I'm talking, that might help. Thanks. Check here. Yeah, that's good.
I got you.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. We got to do this together, you know?
Excellent. It's easier for me to find the button there.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you. So let me talk a minute about NAMEN. So the North American Men Engaged Network, NAMEN, is a regional network spanning US and Canada of organizations and individuals working with and for men and boys to achieve gender equality, things such as ending violence, promoting health for men, women, and children, a whole variety of specific subtopics within that. And again, I mentioned we focus our membership in the US and Canada. We are associated with an international collective called the Global Men Engaged Alliance. This alliance has regional networks throughout the world, including Africa, Latin America, the Caribbean, Asia, and Europe. The global members include more than 900 local organizations. You can look up on menengage.org and see the whole range of participation. The group is involved in a 6-month-long online engagement called the Ubuntu Symposium. This is part of that. This is advertised within that calendar. And we're just enjoying a connection internationally on this topic. The field is, and our work is maturing. It's very diverse. The network in US and Canada has a focus this year of understanding intersectionalities and decolonization in our work and learning how to include that more forefront in what we do. And you can learn more by visiting our website at namen.menengage.org or at menengage itself at menengage.org. So that's about NAMEN. And then a couple of housekeeping notes. So today's session is being recorded. You'll notice that with the red light on your screens. Please turn off your video if you don't want to appear. We want you to be responsible for that, and notice that if you show your video, then you may appear on a posting on the website down the line. But we are recording today so that we can do that. So you know. Then keep your sound muted along the way, unless you have something you want to speak up and say. You'll be called upon. You can use chat to introduce questions or make comments. Use the chat freely. We save that and post at least the questions. So that's the main piece. We're welcome, and we're looking forward to what we have going today. And if we have your email address, we will send an evaluation after the session. I hope you'll fill out the evaluation, let us know how this went and how we can improve. We'll post the link at the end as well. So we'll do that. So that's what I have for housekeeping. So let me introduce our moderator today, Jeremy. So hi, Jeremy. Thanks for being here. Let me say a few words from your bio.
Okay.
And see what you think. So you've worked in the field of domestic violence since 1994 on issues affecting children who have experienced domestic violence, supervised visitation, batter's intervention, and providing training and education. So you're old hat at this. As I am. You worked for 4 years, some years coordinating the Duluth Family Visitation Center, serving families with a history of domestic violence and dealing with visits and exchanges of children between parents. You've also worked for some years as the children's program coordinator at the Women's Transition Housing Coalition in Duluth, Minnesota, providing activities and groups for children who have witnessed violence. You joined the staff at Mending the Sacred Hoop Technical Assistance Project in 1998, a national program to assist American Indian tribes and Alaskan Native villages to develop responses to violence against Indian women through training and technical assistance. In 2015, just a few short years ago, we began working with Wicha Agli. And in March, you assumed the position of director of the National Native Coalition of Men's Programs, which is represented here, I'd say.
Yes.
So you can learn more about you and the speakers today on the Naman website, as well as the Wicha Agli website. Jeremy, we're honored to have you moderating today. Please tell us about today's program and move us along. So I turn things over to you.
All right.
Yeah.
Gwitch, thank you, Craig, and Buju Anin, all of our participants and panelists today. I'm very excited to do this presentation and work with these guys who are presenting today. And we would like to start out in a good way. And so I'm going to ask Harvey if he can open up for us with a prayer and say a few words.
Sego, aguego, what hatkaladene ne yogyaks, oguaho, hodinashoni, kanyakahake, ungohue, akazaslona te gidelo. I say, well, hello everybody. My name is, he turned around. My government name is Harvey. And my sanction name is He Turned Around. I turned my life around at the age of 33. And I got involved in a lot of things for healing and domestic violence, addictions, everything. And so I was asked to do an opening address. That's what we call Ohando Galawadekwe. That's the words before all words. So you're going to see a picture on your screen, I hope. And this is what I'm going to be giving greetings, thanks, and acknowledgement to. And I ask us all to put our minds together as one while I'm doing this. So this is what we do to all our ceremonies, all our gatherings. So aska ida wayat ne ungwat ni guna da no tenit no horato ne ungwe su'a doni antanes wat ni guna. Aska ida wayat ne ungwat ni guna da no tenit no horato ne yotni sta'a o honja doni antanes wat ni guna. Aska ida wayat ne ungwat ni guna da no tenit no horato ne onega su'a da no gachu su'a doni antanes wat ni guna. Aska doya ne ungwa ni guna da no tini no horado ne hohonde su'a da no anungwa su'a donya tanazwa ni guna. Aska doya ne ungwa ni guna da no tini no horado ne kahe su'a da no ni hundessa donya tanazwa ni guna. Aska doya ne ungwa ni guna da no tini no horado ne kyo hekwa da no kyo tosala donya tanazwa ni guna. Aska doya ne ungwa ni guna da no tini no horado ne Cantilio, tano oscononda, donya tanazwa ni guna. Haska doya ne ungwa ni guna da nutinit no horado ne oguila su'a, tano watta, donya tanazwa ni guna. Haska doya ne ungwa ni guna da nutinit no horado ne ochi da'a agua, tano agwax, donya tanazwa ni guna. Haska doya ne ungwa ni guna da nutinit no horado ne kaili neolage. Tano yogi sutta la dawelas donya tanazwa ni guna. Aska doya ne ungwa ni guna da nutinit no horato ne sugwa jiha ke kanego galakwa donya tanazwa ni guna. Aska doya ne ungwa ni guna da nutinit no horato ne yogi sutta asantana galakwa donya tanazwa ni guna. Aska doya ne ungwa ni guna da nutinit no horato ne ojista nungwa su'a donya tanazwa ni guna. Aska doya ne ungwa ni guna da no tenite no horado ne skanya dalio donya tanazwa ni guna. Aska doya ne ungwa ni guna da no tenite no horado ne kaili ne kweteke donya tanazwa ni guna. Aska doya ne ungwa ni guna da no tenite no horado ne sungwaya diso donya tanazwa ni guna. Nya goa danato.
And pray, you're gonna sing a song?
Yeah, sego so aguego gahado do yungyats oskanondo kanya gahaga or na shoni go hue gahado is my the name I carry. Deer clan of the Kanya Gahaga, the people of the Flint. You may know us as Mohawk, and we are part of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy.
again, you may know us as the 5 Nations or the 6 Nations Confederacy. But in our own language, in our own way, in our own words, we call ourselves Kanyakgahaga, the people of the Flint. So I'm going to do, like, we always like to open up gatherings and just trying to share with people whenever they're in need, or just to feel better in our minds. We share first. We do the Honda Galiwadekwa as an opening address, get our minds in a good place, and then we do song. Yeah, and there's so many teachings in this drum that I'm going to share. One part of it is that when we hear this beat of this drum, it reminds us of in spiritual, it reminds us of being in that warm, sacred place of our mother's womb, listening to her heartbeat. So right away when we hear that, it calms our spirit down and it allows us to be more open to these suggestions that our brothers are here to share. Oh, Anito, Nyango.
Miigwech. All right. So today our panel is featuring programs from across the country that we had wanted to share with you all some of the work that's been happening. So part of this work with NAMIN has been doing organizing for a number of years, bringing people together for a number of years to share in this work around engaging men and doing violence prevention, policy level stuff, and all the stuff around awareness and trying to make some social change. And so in this collaboration with Wachagli and NAMIN, we wanted to share some of the teachings and lessons and activities that's happening in Native communities with you all, and hoping there's some of the information that we share that is helpful to you all, gain some insight, and possibly incorporate some of these lessons and concepts in the way that you do your work. So I really enjoy the theme of decolonization that NAMIN is doing. One of my favorite authors is Michael Yellowbird, and he has a book called Decolonizing the Mind, and it's certainly for everyone, because what we've learned over centuries, over time, is about this process of dominance and power and everything over people, land, environment, nature, animals, all this other stuff that we're trying to do as human beings as we, strive to exist on this planet. But we all come from places as indigenous people. All of our histories, the farther we go back, we are all connected and we're all land-based people. Some of us just have to go farther back than others. Go through some Roman times, some Anglo-Saxon times, some Attila the Hun times, right? but we're all connected as people with the earth. And so that's one of the things I really like about working in Native communities and sharing, is because we have a lot of people who are still connected that way. And we have a lot of teachings that we are fortunate enough in some places where people have living memories of that still to this day. Like people grew up that way. So we have our brother from Alaska. When we go up there, the impact of colonization isn't as deep as it is, say, on the eastern seaboard, you know, New York, Pennsylvania, all that area. And even in my area of Minnesota, we have a lot of religious influence. So a lot of our traditions and things are intermingled with a lot of Christian beliefs. But when we talk with people up in rural and remote areas of Alaska, they're like, it's a lifetime in their past. It's not generations ago. And then people in more rural and remote areas. I see our brother here from the Pueblos down in those remote areas too. People have a lot of close connections to those teachings. And so we wanted to share that and have a variety of programs from across the country. So we have our Akwesasne brothers who did our opening and sharing, and they're from New York. And then we go moving westwardly over to Rosebud, where we have Greg, who is co-founder of Wachagli, and he's going to be taking on speaking role today. And then we'll have Johan from southeastern Alaska on the beautiful island of Metlakatla. So he's going to be sharing the work here. And so it's a opportunity for people to hear about what's happening, and then we're going to share some of the organizing that's been happening. And so that's the concentration of today. And we'll hopefully have a chance for a lot of interaction after. We're going to do the presentations and have like this roughly the second hour conversations and discussion. If we don't get too yappy ourselves, we'll let people join in. We'll get Harvey going, and that'll be 2 hours of Harvey. But luckily we have tomorrow. It's our part 2, where we're really going to get more into more of the tools and content and the teachings around how we're using those in our work. So miigwech again. Thank you, Harvey and Pray, for the introduction. Thank you, Nauman and Craig, for having us. And then we want to just go with our general introductions here. And then we'll go back to Harvey and introduce who you are, where you're from, and then we'll go from east to west on that one. Go through the...
All right, now go. Thank you. Again, what hatkaladeni de youngjats? Okwafa, Otanashoni, Kanyakahake, Ungwahue, Akazaslona de Gidero. I'm from Aguasasne, and a lot of people, when you say New York, they always think of New York City and the Big Apple. Even the people from that area, when they say upstate New York, that only gets as far as Newburgh and things like that. So where our reserve actually is right on the Canadian border. So it's easier to say Montreal, Quebec, or Ottawa, Ontario. We're only like an hour from them. So when you see them and bring it down on the map, you see us in Aguasasne. And I don't even know if on the maps has been changed yet to Aguasasne. Could still say St. Regis Indian Reservation. So that's where we are, way up right on the border. We have a lot of things and controversy with these borders because we cater to Ontario, Quebec, New York State, Canada, and the USA. So we've got a lot of multi-jurisdictions here. So anyways, me personally, I went into a rehab a while back. I grew up in tradition. And then going through school and getting into a little bit of high school there, I started to sway from that because the educational system wasn't for me because of what it was perpetrating as truths. I believe were lies, and I really care about George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, or people like that. I wanted to hear about our people. I wanted to hear about our warriors, Crazy Horse, Sitting Bull, and things like that. So I was relatively rebel from the start. So I did graduate high school and get out, and I went into ironwork by trade, and I got lost along the way, got into drugs and alcohol. I came back to a rehab right here on the reservation, and I learned a few things about myself. I did not want to be there. I didn't want to go there. I didn't think I needed it and all this stuff. So, but as I learned some things about myself and learned some traditions, I was introduced to the sweat lodge, and I really gravitated to that because I felt it in the heart. It wasn't up here, because up here I had so much untruths and manipulation going on that I didn't understand. So as I talked to the director there and was getting to know him and the way he would explain things to me, uh, I just liked it, the way he spoke. It wasn't or else. It wasn't I'm going to save your ass or all kinds of things like this. It was just conversation, and this was the leader of that rehab, and I found that interesting. He was a native from here, and when I got out, he says, "If you stay sober, come back and see me. I want to give you something to do." So I was a year sober, and I went back, and he let me do a volunteer. Actually, he hired me, but I had to quit because I was getting paid less working than I was on unemployment at the time. So I quit, and then I went back on unemployment. So I volunteered my time. So I would go and help out with the sweats and different things. I start teaching some culture that I remembered, brought back from childhood, as to some of the things I was taught at an early age and how lost I got. So I really like Thunderheart movie when he says, "You're as far away as the hawk from the sun, from my true being." That's where I was. I was so far away from my spirit that I started to seek that. In learning some of these things about myself, the epiphanies and the awarenesses that came were so enlightening, and I felt so good. And I personally call it a zero. I finally got back to a zero, and I loved it because now I had the opportunity and the choice to become anything I want it to be, to start to set that path of the Creator, set that path of faith, set that path of that surrender to wind, and just let the wind guide me, to let the river guide me, and see where I would end up. And there was a lot of things shown to me that was that guided me, and I ended up working and getting a job at this place, which is a rehab called the Partridge House. For 22 years, I worked there, and standing everybody else up. So now I'm with Seven Dancers Coalition, and that's the name of our program for the men and the youth. The men is standing the tree back up. We want to get our spirit back up. Some of our words are about the condolence of the mind. When we lose somebody we love, our mind is on the ground, our heart is on the ground, our spirit is on the ground. We want to stand that back up. So the same thing under addiction and alcohol abuses, same thing under domestic violence and all those. We got to understand our spirit is on the ground, and we want other people and drag down. Misery loves company, right? So we want to bring that down, and instead of enlightening people and standing people back up, we want to be strong again. So my brother, who introduced himself later, is the saplings to cedars, and that's the youth. We work together. So we want them saplings to become the cedars, to become the trees, and understand things. So we look at that and just educate awareness. We're not getting that anywhere anymore. So when I start to see these people coming back and saying thank you for those things, and thank you for those teachings, and you start hearing, oh, I got 8 years clean time now, I got 3 years clean time now, I got, I haven't been arrested in this long, and all this stuff. That it's truly gratifying to hear these things, and it's just that opportunity of sitting with somebody and sharing these things. You can see something in the background there that I work with. I got a whole series around my office here that we just talk about these things and start to understand. And there's nothing greater than meeting somebody where they're at, instead of coming and saying, you gotta, because from my own personal experience, as soon as you say you gotta, I shut down and say, no, I don't, or make me. So a lot of illusion of what I believed was to be a man, a lot of illusion as to what I believed was to be a warrior, a lot of illusions in there. And I had to look at those. And I did my fasting on the mountain. I went up on the mountain, did my 4 days, 4 years, no food and water and stuff, and got to know myself. And that first year, I didn't like what I had become, so I had to change. And so I'm involved in this. And I've been here, like I said, another 3 years at Seven Dancers. So I've been in this business for 25. I've been clean and sober for 27 plus years. And the greatest move I ever made was going and getting help to understand exactly who I was. And I didn't like who I was, so I had to change. But now I try to keep it simple. So Nyawa Goa, welcome everybody, and Nyawa for letting me share.
All right, we good. Pray, you want to do your intro next day?
So there you go, everybody. Gahlak Dodo yung gats. Gahlak Dodo is my name. I was given my name at birth. My mother and my aunts gave me that name. It was my grandfather's name before me, and for a long time I didn't know what my name meant. I had to seek out not only the meaning of it, but also to get to know my grandfather and what kind of character he had and what gifts he had and what struggles he had. Because when I carry that name, I also carry those gifts too. So for the longest time, I didn't know what my name meant, and I lived a life. It's pretty. I think it's typical of people who are in poverty. Reservations, boarding schools, Indian day schools. So I think my life is very typical having those experiences. I had drug and alcohol addiction. I've incarcerated more times than I can remember, and finally did I got done my incarceration. I had my prison time, and before I went into prison, I made a decision to put those the alcohol and those drugs down and turn my life around, like Harvey said. So what helps me in my life is the culture, our traditions, our teachings, our medicines, our ceremony. Everything natural in this world. I have a connection to. I have a connection to each one of you people, my human family. But I also have a connection to every living thing in the universe. I have a spiritual connection to everything. So whenever I'm in a good mind and I remember that, my life is really peaceful and it's full of gratitude. And it's a good way. It's the good mind. So what I try and do with our programs, Seven Dancers, I work with Harvey and Munjabi, and some females that work there too. So like I work with the youth along with work with the men. There's no it's a category for somebody else to make them happy. But for us, if somebody comes in, we help them in any way that we can. I try and share the lessons that helped me in my life. I don't share things that I don't do. I don't offer suggestions to people or guidance or ways that I don't do myself. So that really makes it more authentic for me to share with people like that. I've lived here in Snai on the river, St. Lawrence River. That's a new name for that river. We have our own name for it, and we do live on half of our territories on the American side and half is on the Canadian side. For us, we have been here longer than the United States and longer than Canada, longer than anybody else has come to this Turtle Island that we call North America. So myself personally, I don't recognize those borders. I have property here that begins on the Canadian side and it ends on the American side. So there's a connection, and right in the middle, there's that imaginary line. When I look on the ground, there's no line there. So to me, that doesn't exist. So one day I'm gonna put a sweat lodge right on that spot where they say that imaginary line goes through, and that's gonna be a statement, for the whole Turtle Island to take notice of that. That we don't honor that, or we came before that, you know. So I just want to share that I'm really honored to be here talking to men and all people who help their home communities. You know, when you put your mind to something and you follow that with action, you know, lives can change. My life changed a lot. I was in a real bad place, and in suicidal depression, you know, lost everything. And at that moment, I decided that I'm gonna live in a natural way. And the first thing I had to do was I had to take care of all these charges and all these legal entanglements and webs that was trapping me. You know, I had to take care of all of that first. And today I am completely, there's no ties on me at all from any government, any organization, any entities. You know, I live here on my own, and I can be self-sufficient here if I choose, and that's what we're working on right now. And I share that with anybody that gets within earshot of me. So now go for listening, and Donato, I'm done.
All right, Chabi.
Saigo Aguego, the Sukwa Yungats, Akozaslano, the Nashoni, Ganyagahaga, Ungahuan, Duis. My name, the Sukwa, means he picked it up. And I just found out the real meaning behind that. I always thought it meant he picks something up, but he picked it up. That's what it means. And in the last 3.5 years, almost 4 years now of my sobriety, I believe I picked up my life, and I really have to show my gratitude to Prey and Harvey for giving me the guidance on my journey to get where I'm at today. I stuck around the rooms and the sweat lodge and talking circles long enough that they gave me an opportunity to work with them. And I am just really honored with all that because I don't know if I'm allowed to swear or not, but I was a scumbag. And to work in the domestic violence and sexual assault field now just has changed my life for the better. I see myself making positive changes, and we can change, you know. And I've changed, and the Partridge House, the rehab that Harvey talked about, you know, I went through there, and when Prey was there working, he told me I had lost my spirit, and with that being told to me, I didn't really know what my spirit was. And to me, it is this culture background that I was missing in my life. And I get to wear ribbon shirts today. I get to have our medallions, and you know, our Gustoa. I would be wearing this right now, but I don't want to right now. But these things I didn't have in my life. I've gone 35 years without any of this stuff in my life. It was because of the intergenerational traumas that my grandmother went through, and she was part of the church. And she told me she would disown me if I ever went to the longhouse or followed anything that we've done. So I honored her wishes, and I waited till she passed before I did anything. But I did get sober, learning this cultural stuff while she was still alive. She didn't like it, but I had to be sober for me. I wasn't sober for my grandma, I was sober for me. But I had that much more respect for my grandmother. I have a lot more respect for the women, my mother, my sisters, everybody in my life, the females that I get to work with here. I just have so much more respect today for them. And my other two coworkers, Harvey and Prey, and for the rest of you. And what I like to say is Gunalunkwa, which to everybody else means I love you, but I give you my medicine, and I want to help change whoever I can. I do get yelled at by Harvey because I'll stand by the road with the stop sign. So, but that's all I have for today. Nyao and Danito.
All right, very good. Thank you. So I think what we'll do is go to you, Johan, and then come back to Greg, and then go into the presentations.
Doixon, and Delawan, Luam Godu, Johan Echo Hawk Atkinson, DYU, Lakibu Tegu, Metlakatla, Alaska, Diwalwatku. Hello, how are you? I'm very happy. My heart is happy to be here. My name is Johan Echo Hawk Atkinson. I'm of the Wolf Clan of the Tsimshian people here in beautiful Metlakatla, Alaska, the only reservation in the whole entire state. So first, I just want to acknowledge and share give some gratitude to my brothers here. They have helped me on my path over the last decade in helping me understand who I was and understanding my responsibility as a person in this world. We would meet every year for quite some time, and that's when I first got introduced to my brothers, and I first got to sit in ceremony with them, and I got to hear from them, and I got to learn from them. So and that has helped me on my path on where I am at right now. Here in my village of Metlakatla, Alaska, I spent the last 10 years as a youth counselor here in my village, and I recently started to work with the Alaska Network Domestic Violence based out of Juneau, Alaska, as their men's engagement. And, I'm just very honored to be able to come here and share a piece of what we have going on here in Alaska. And I'm honored to share it because I want to be able to help others on finding their path, because so many have helped me on my path. And I always walk into spaces, no matter where I'm at. And the first thing in my mind is I could learn something from everybody in this room. I could learn something from no matter who you are, no matter what status you have. You got to take your hat off and you go into all spaces with an open heart and an open mind. And I've just been so fortunate and grateful to be able to have so many brothers amongst me, and sisters as well. And I'm going to keep my intro short, but I just want to say that I gave gratitude to my brothers, but I also want to give gratitude to my sisters, because the woman in my life, I give thanks to every single day, because if it was not for them, I would not be here. My mother, she gave me my life. She gave me my identity. She gave me my clan. And every single woman here that is in my circle and watching, I honor you. I praise you. And us as men, we are in this work not to lead, but to finally be able to stand next to you and support you side by side. Because it's all too common when we go to our conferences and when we show up to spaces that are focused on ending hurt and harm. It's 90% woman, only 10% men, when the perpetrators are 90% men. So, and in this line of work, I noticed that we get a lot of gratitude and thanks for being in this work, but our responses, and I learned this from my brothers, is no, don't thank me for finally stepping up, not to lead, but to stand next to you and to honor our roles as indigenous men. So thank you all. I'm very, very honored to be in this space with you all.
All right, make rich. Well, looking for old Grego to pop back up with his face here.
Here I am.
Hey, there's his face. All right, we'll get him up on here.
My name is Greg Cloud. I'm an enrolled member of the Crow Creek Sioux tribe. I live currently on the Sinchangu Nation, the Rosebud Sioux tribe, where we've offered programming since 2014 with youth, boys, young boys, and men, where we implement programming for violent offenders, ages 18 and above, throughout the whole reservation and the state. And we offer youth programming in camps in the summertime for when we teach healthy masculinity, culturally specific healthy masculinity. And we've been an organization since 2014 and branching out and hopefully be in our nations here and hopefully get other people started in culturally specific healthy masculinities in other Native communities as well. So that's my introduction. Thank you very much for all being here and present, and excited to get started.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, miigwech. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for all your intros. Just so you know, I am Ojibwe and Winnebago. So my family's from the White Earth Reservation, which is the western edge of Minnesota, just about the middle. And then from Winnebago, Nebraska, so down south. And I am in Duluth, Minnesota. Pretty much urban Indian my whole life. Not on a res, not rural areas. Rural Minnesota is about as rural as I get. So I think this is one of the things that people are talking about, and which leads to this panel presentation that we really want to get into is, how is it from our experiences in our past that we're bringing that with us? You know, when we walk upon this earth, we want to learn to be a full person. That's part of our lessons when we come here and we live this life. And one of our lessons that we're supposed to learn, one of our purposes of our journey is, how do we be that full person? We all have different teachings. Some of us medicine wheel, some of us have other tools. But really, no matter across the country and even across the globe, there's a lot of people who talk about being in balance. How you have to be balanced. You know, people who love yoga, right? They got their own balance, mind, body, soul. Same thing with us. Physical, emotional, mental, spiritual balance. How do we stay in harmony? And that's what it is that we're coming as we do this work. Like Greg was just saying, you know, we carry this stuff and we want to use our teachings in the way that we do our work. But we've all had this conversation as us as Native men getting together saying it's funny that we need grant dollars and training money to do what is traditional, right? So we have to use the process of colonization undid our cultural traditions and outlawed our spiritual practices and all this other stuff. But nowadays, we have to use federal dollars in a lot of communities to relearn what it is that we lost. It's kind of an interesting dynamic, right? But when we go about our traditional ways and bringing these teachings to what we do, it is inherently violence prevention in the way our culture teaches us to be men. It is very inherent, and it's one of these terms where people will talk about evidence-based practices. And I've been saying it for years, is that in Native communities, we have practice-based evidence. By our traditional practices, we know with these lessons, these teachings, that we have the evidence, historical evidence, to show that our communities were really, had a really low tolerance for violence and a really low number of domestic and sexual violence. And things were responded to quickly. And we didn't have these long drawn-out court proceedings. Things were handled very decisively, and people took on that responsibility. And you were taught how to accept responsibility, and to be challenged, and to accept that challenge, and to how do you make repairs into the community. And so that's one of the things that we're dealing with now. Everything's about ownership and what do I get. And so when we work with men who are violent and men who batter, their mentality is that they're at the top, and then anyone beneath them is disrespectful to their authority. And so they feel like a victim. Like, you know, our past president was in that category. Everyone who challenged him was attacking him, right? So we got someone in authority, abuse of authority, and how they see themselves as a victim, but that wasn't part of our way. And so as everyone shares today, we'll be highlighting a little bit more of those concepts and teachings. And then I'll turn it back over to Greg now, who's going to start out. And Greg, just give me the go ahead when you're ready to for me to play the video.
Okay. As Jeremy was saying, oftentimes we have to rekindle and reteach values, cultural values within our men. While utilizing our culture, it inherently, like I said, teaches our men to be better men. Not for ourselves, but for our families. That teaches the roles and responsibilities of our manhood and in our masculinity as well. So everything, when we dig down into our culture, it will revolve around items that were brought to us a lot of the times, the majority of the times, by women. And there were rules and protocols to follow within those. We utilize that same understanding of working with horses in the sense of when we work with a horse, oftentimes they're green horses, young horses, colts. But when we work with them, when we integrate the men with the horses are reflective in feelings and energy. They will reflect anything that you put out. So whatever you are currently feeling and you're around a horse, that horse will reflect that in its behavior, his or her behavior. When that happens, oftentimes when we're working with violent men, they have negative feelings and negative emotions that are built up inside of them. Well, when they present themselves to this horse will become afraid. This horse will want to get as far as they can from this man. When breaking that down, the man himself will become more emotional aware. And I like to say we can turn a man into a child. When I say that, I mean we take the man back to where he first experienced trauma, where he first experienced hurt, where he first experienced pain. When he first experienced these emotions that he hasn't understood as a child, and when we experience trauma, childhood trauma, our minds stop growing. When our minds stop growing, but our bodies are growing bigger and older into men, we go from a boy to a man, but in our minds, we stay that boy. So what happens when a boy becomes uncomfortable, becomes unaware of the situation, the surroundings is, and if he doesn't like something, he'll throw a tantrum, throw a fit. He'll respond like a child would. So we take that child who's experienced that trauma and now is a grown man. When he's a grown man, he's still responding and reacting as though he's a child, and he would throw a tantrum. Well, oftentimes when he's throwing that tantrum, he's hurting people. When we as men, the majority of us in this work, well, myself, I've been a violent man. I've utilized power and control tactics against my partner in the past. And it was something that we realized going back to childhood, and when we experienced the trauma first is where I stopped growing. So taking those understandings where the horses helped us, the horses, what video you're about to see, what you're about to see, watch is that process of taking men that are a part of our group and that are a part of our men's re-education program here on the Roosevelt Reservation, where we take the men and turn them all into children, and we start slowly building them back up. When a man turns into a child, he wants nothing more but to be accepted and to be. And when we found this understanding with the horses help navigate that man to find new feelings and new emotions to experience and to share with their loved ones. And you'll see in the video where that transition is had with the men. They start to understand. In the video at the very end of our programming, we require the men to share their exact experience utilizing violence against a partner. So the men are required to share out loud to the group exactly why they are in a violent offenders program, Should they not share that incident of what brought them to the program, their violence used against their partner, they will not complete the program. And so it's taken very seriously in that way. And the men oftentimes will find a great deal of healing while involved in involving themselves with the horses and finding new understandings. Other than that, the video will explain a whole lot more. You'll see a whole lot more, but understand that it's violent men working with horses to find a healing from their childhood trauma. And you'll see where the men find a realization in their lives. So Jeremy, at this time, the video is going to be 16 minutes long. And I hope you guys all enjoy. Thank you very much.
We say we're a horse nation because the horse brings so much to us, every single direction. And those directions are represented by their legs. Their legs go out to each direction. Their head points up to the direction of the clouds. The tail, makatakia, that's their strength. That's their resilience. Hep, hep, hep. Hep, hep, ah, hep, ah, hep, hep, hep. Hep. All right, come on in here, boys. Close this up. The horses probably already know who they're going to choose. I'm going to stand out there with you guys. I think one at a time we'll do this, and the horse will choose you. Each horse has been through something completely different. Whatever trauma that horse has been through, they often choose somebody who's been through very similar trauma. In one way or another, all the men that were involved in our circle, we were all touched by violence. We grew up with our fathers being violent or our uncles being violent, and that all resided inside of us. We all needed to change that. We knew that our trauma was because our violence growing up. It's volunteer based. Whoever wants to go right now. Who wants to be the first? There we go. Go ahead, head on in there. Everybody else just watch. I want you to understand what they're going through and see which ones are being casted out. See how they treat each other.
For the majority of the men, they're being charged with domestic violence. And part of the court's recommendation is that they go into a program on the reservation.
Hold on. Hold on. Hep. Hep, hep. Hep, hep, hep. Come on now. Come on now. Hep. Hep, hep. Come on now.
I don't see it as rehabilitation. I don't see it as re-education. I see it as a reawakening.
If I have a woman that's sitting in front of me and she's beaten black and blue and she tells me, oh, he's a good father, you know what I say? How can he be if this is how he treats the mother of his children? I see it every day in my shelter. Believe me. We can hold 36 women and children, and guess what? We're full most of the time. What does that tell you? So you've all been arrested, correct? Right? You've all been arrested. So how many of you guys have children? All of you. Do you ever think about the things that you do in your lives and how it affects your babies? When you're in the home and the police are called and there's mommy crying, house is torn apart, I mean, what do you think that does to your children? Did you yourself experience that as a young child? You did? You did too, right? But when we grow up in trauma situations like that, you're always waiting for the hammer to drop. As adults, we create that. I want you to think about, am I just creating chaos? You're so used to your level of adrenaline, anxiety, and crisis being high that when it's gone, it doesn't feel normal. It's huge that you're here. You know, these guys are really good to work with, and I hope you get something from your weekend here. You may not be able to undo some of the damage, but you should work toward trying to be part of the solution. Okay? And I wish you guys all luck in the future. All right? I hope things change for you. Okay? Yeah.
We're going to do some activities with them later on today. That's going to require a deeper connection that we need to have with each horse. So by us brushing them, you're also cleansing them from those type of traumas that they have inside of themselves, but also from the fact that they helped other people. We really teach not just culture, we're culturally based, but we dig into our culture and how our culture teaches us as men to be men. We look at our historical trauma that we suffer as nations. You know, we didn't have this type of violence. You know, the Western society exerted violence onto our nations, and they pulled families apart and split them up, and they beat children and raped children and women, and they killed the men. And each generation that comes on, it gets more and more violent because we're dealing with that historical trauma, and we really internalize it. And when you get told that for many, many, many years, you start believing it. The seventh element, the seventh and sacred element, is us. Makasatomia, we are the full around connection. When we groom the horse, when we communicate with the horse, we make that full circle. We represent all them seven energies, all those seven directions.
We're way out here, but you know, we have to rely on them, you know, commodities, you know, food stamps, you know, once a month check, you know. But you don't see no like really opportunities like around here.
Out there, some people don't like us Lakotas or just natives. Like they'll just call us prairie niggers, and we go into a store and just white person. Well, we don't serve native people.
The work of the oppressor is to keep you so confused that you're in a state of fear. There's no resources for men on the reservation. We're still constantly being traumatized, and there's a lot of internalized suppression and lateral violence that occurs because we don't like ourselves.
You give them the energy, they're going to take it. You give them your anger, they're going to take it. Communicate with them that you're sad, they're going to take that sadness away from you, and then you're going to become happy. Fine here. So I was violent in a lot of different ways. I used a lot of name calling and putting down. I used a lot of emotional abuse. Okay, who'd like to go first? Here, all right. Right there.
Yeah, I just kept building up until finally I just blew up. And it's not in our tradition to disrespect women or hit them. So deep inside me is just, it tore me up.
Remember, if your partner don't want to do it, do they have to? And if your partner don't want to do it, do they have to? Now, oftentimes we have to remember if something's too difficult between a situation and you can't force it to happen, then what do you think you should probably do? You work around the problem.
I always been a people's person. I always got along with everybody. But my partners is kind of different.
So he's trying to control you right now. See when he's doing that? Mm-hmm. He's trying to control you. He's like, no, I'm in control. You're going to do what I want. I don't want to go anywhere. And sometimes in our lives, did you ever kind of use that? Power and control?
That kind of fits because, you know, someone play games, I'll play games too.
Sometimes that's not the healthiest thing to do either. You know what I mean? No. I mean, you can see it here, right here. He's showing me by his actions that there's some things inside you still need to deal with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Me and my better half got in the argument and it just went south. And by the time you know it, I had no control. I came to in the junk tank, and that's an ugly feeling. But I was scared. I was scared of what I did and how I did it or why I did it. First thing that went through my head was help. help, like I need someone to talk to. I need someone to talk to me, help me out and everything. Come on, this way. Come on, Hola. There you go.
Good job, Mr. Nash. Very good job.
Come on. There you go, buddy.
I was not only physically beaten, but sexually assaulted. I think one of the most horrific times was when I was 9 years old. I stayed 9 years old for a long time. When a man is stuck at an age where he shouldn't be, he does things that he shouldn't do because he doesn't realize the consequence that comes from that. I can't teach a man how to be a man. I could teach them the struggles that I've been through, and if they can relate to it, and then when they do relate to it, then they can begin their process of healing and their growth.
When the horse was pulling, it kind of made me feel like when Kristen I had her by her arms, and she didn't like it. One night I just went too far. I kicked the phone out of her hand. As I was doing that, I fractured her wrist. They go run upstairs, call the cops.
But every time you don't grab her, every time you don't hit her, every time you say a kind word to her, it's like building that back up again.
This class has helped me out a lot, especially what I experienced today with the horse. Yeah, I felt him, he felt me. Oh no, it's a good vibe.
And this horse has been through the worst, right? But that doesn't mean that horse is broken or any less worthy of love.
Yeah.
We gotta grow up. And I think this class is a turning point for them, and we offer that space for them to grow up.
Well, being a man is taking responsibility for your actions. I got to straighten up. I got to straighten up to have a good name for myself.
When we're violent towards a woman, our rights of a man are being stripped away. We work our entire lives to bring that honor back. Been here for a couple of days, couple long, hard days. What we want to create is a safe place, the sage going around, a safe place for us to share. Bring your minds here. Bring your hearts here. Today, Mr. Neck is going to be completed from the class and completed and fulfilled his commitment. So part of the class, just like you guys that are coming up on a graduation soon, we talk about things in our lives. We talk about the incident that brought us into this class. We talk about our use of violence. So that's the very first question I'm going to be asking. So Mr. Neck, if you would share your use of violence before this class.
I'm Aaronek, and yeah, I did have some problems when I was younger, especially when I was growing up with my ex-wife.
What are some of the types of violence you may have used?
Saying mean stuff, backhanding. But afterwards, I would think about my kids, think what I put them through, what they saw. I don't want to be a bad man.
Do you know that you're accountable for that action?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Do you forgive yourself?
Well, sort of, but not kind of,
And I ask that question because a lot of times, if we don't give ourselves the permission to say that was in the past and I need to move forward now, and really own that in our hearts, that past is just going to keep driving us and showing up again. And I believe you when you say, I'm going to use these understandings to be a good man, to be a good partner, to be a good father.
The last part of that is we're going to make these tobacco flags. We want to take this and wipe it down with that sage. Put something that's bothering you inside of this tie. And your full energy or your entire heart, you put that in there. You roll it up, you tie it. Never visiting that old person who you used to be again. and I take it from you. When I tied onto the staff, we as a society, we would carry them burdens of violent men. The second one is we're gonna make a flag for you. It's the same thing. You're gonna put positive things in there, put the good things. That one you're gonna tie up as well, and that one you can take with you. Before we eat, last meal of the day for here at the camp, for a song for our food. Our hope is that we do change one man at a time, but at the same time, when that one man is being changed, that the other men see that there is hope, that we too can change.
Okay. All right.
Okay, now welcome back everybody from the video. Sometimes after watching the video, it's a little difficult for some people, but it's also a great conversation piece, a great topic to create that type of conversation now going into a healing. We've also learned about 90% of the men that come through our program have been sexually assaulted in their lifetime. And the large majority of the time that happens is when they're children, childhood sexual violence. And it's really important to understand that trauma and what age that happens at. It's very important to understand that. Because once you start understanding, and once you do understand what age one's trauma started, then you know on how to come at their healing, that each individual's healing. Some trauma starts at 6, 9, 10, 15 years old. Some of it's 20. And then you know what age of a person you're dealing with. And then you can start those teachings from because it's different. It's different how you speak to men and different how you speak to a child. In those verbiages and the words that you utilize, but the feelings are all the same. That man is going to respond to you the way a child would respond, and it's something that is very influential when working with violent offenders. In the past 7, 8 years, we've implemented them. The men that have come through our program and graduated, like you seen at the end of the video, you've seen them making a tobacco tie. Traditionally, the tobacco tie you put in a prayer and what you want for yourself and or family into that tie, and you bind that up. And that's the prayer. But in the sense of how we utilize that is what we did in our past. We utilize our violent behaviors to put into that tie, and we tie that up, making that an offering. And it's something that the men necessarily, the guilt from that is very strong with men who have used violence, especially if it's fresh or even if it's years ago. The guilt still carries. And in order to continue with the healing, that guilt needs to be cut. That way we can begin a healing. And then from that healing, then we can start the process of reconciliation with maybe those that we hurt in our past. Jeremy, if maybe now we wanted to utilize our discussion questions at this time, unless you have anything more to add to the Wichita Ugly video and more explanation.
No, I think that's good for now, because I think we'll at the end we'll have a chance. Hopefully, we'll have a chance, depending how long our presentations go, to get into more of this. Otherwise, we'll just put the other pieces for tomorrow, right? If we don't get to those discussion questions today. But certainly, if people have any questions or comments, put them in the chat. I mentioned in there that we're going to try to figure out how to get this spliced in for the final recording. The video used to be online, but it got taken down because people were misusing the video. So otherwise, we would have just sent you a YouTube link and you could, view it there. But so we'll figure out a way to get it in the recording and get it to Craig and figure this out before this final recording gets posted through Namen. All right. So Johan, how about we go back to you. We'll go reverse order again of intro. So go back to you, Johan, and then we'll go back to New York afterwards.
Yes, absolutely. Neat. Again, Johan Dewayu, Lucky Buddha Tegu, Mescatla, Alaska, Dewald Watu, Luam Godu. My name is Johan Echohawk Atkinson. I'm of the Wolf Clan here in Metlakatla, Alaska. I want to thank my brothers for sharing that video. It's always so powerful to watch, to see how we utilize our cultural tools and our ancestral knowledge to heal the world. One of the things I live by is our traditional values can and will heal all of our modern day problems. I'll say that again: our traditional values, our traditional way of life can heal and strengthen all of our modern day problems. So I'm going to share some of the, I'm going to share my screen here, see if I can do this right. So I want to share some of the programs that we are doing here in Southeast Alaska. This is my community. We are a small village, the only reservation in the whole entire state of Alaska of the Tsimshian people. My tribe, we are a coastal tribe, and we have lived our lives out of traditional canoes for thousands of years. And when you are in a traditional canoe, you have 17 other people that are relying on you. And I say it's 17 because that is the canoe on the size of the canoe that we use in our program. And when you're sitting in a traditional canoe, just like the one I have here that I love showing the kids, the whole 17 people, you got 17 people relying on you to do your part. And you have to rely on 17 other people to also do your part. And in my language, Lawaida translates to pull together. So in my community here in Metlakatla, Alaska, the Tsimshian people are on both sides of the borders, just like my brothers have said on the East Coast. When the colonizers first came here, they decided to put the Canadian and Alaskan border right smack dab in the middle of the Tsimshian territory. So I got relatives here in Alaska and in Canada. And I am the same way. I don't see no border because my ancestors have been traveling along this coast for thousands of years, time immemorial. And up until this little sliver of time, the people that came here, the colonizers, they created division, trying to create division, even through something as simple as a border. You are now Canadian, you are now American. No, as indigenous people, we don't see that. We're all relatives. And that's that traditional approach, just like how my brother Greg had showed that video. He's using those traditional values and the cultural tools that he has to help and to overcome all of our modern day problems, all of the high numbers. So here in my community, Metlakatla, Alaska, we have Old Metlakatla and we have New Metlakatla. Old Metlakatla is in British Columbia. And just a long story short, in 1887, my ancestors, we jumped in canoes and our tribe separated, and 1,000 Tsimshians traveled up north, not knowing where they were going to go, not knowing on what new land. Our tribe broke because of religion. And my ancestors, we settled on this piece of land right here, what is now Metlakatla, Alaska. So in 2003, because our indigenous people don't see borders, we traveled to Canada to redo the journey in our traditional canoes. And I brought down 6 young people with me who have had experiences in lives that no young person should have. So when I traveled down, let me see if I could change my screen here. We went on a traditional canoe journey. And as you can see, every paddle is hitting the water at the same time. And that's when our traditional canoes, and that's when you could reach your destination faster and quicker and stronger, is when we all work together and pull together. And that approach, using that concept and everything that we do to strengthen and heal, what I've learned is the best approach when we work together. So we went on a 7-day journey from Canada to Alaska. And it was the most amazing and life-changing experience any of us had ever been on. And that's when I truly realized that we have to work together to get where we want to get. So there was a total of 7 canoes. We traveled every day. It was hard. Every day we had to give it our all. And we had to push past the point of when we say to ourselves, and I know at one point we all say to ourselves, I can't do this anymore. I don't have the strength. But when you go through you go through what your ancestors have went through. And when you find that strength, and many of us did, we had to hit that wall and we had those thoughts like, I can't do it anymore. But then when we see 17 other people also doing it, also having those thoughts, we're sharing each other's strength, we're becoming one. And when all paddles hit the water, every single time the paddle hit the water together, 18 paddles, we were getting closer and closer and closer to our destination, one paddle at a time. For 7 days we did this. We would at nighttime we would set up camp. Daybreak we take the canoes and we drop them in the ocean and take off again. And through the young people that I brought down, there was a lot of self-reflection, as with all of us, on what we're capable of. And every day was a test. And every day, with the strength of others, we were able to overcome all the challenges. We were able to have that strength with each other. And I felt it too. And when every day I woke up, just like how I'm in this space, I could learn something from every single one of you all. When I would wake up, I would go with an open heart and an open mind. I could learn something from you all. I could get strength from you all. So we continued. So day 7, we paddled for 7 days, and my community in Metlakatla, Alaska, it was a historic day. Traditional canoes have not landed on our beaches in over 100 years, because when we first came to Metlakatla, missionaries and the church took away all our traditional life, our languages, our canoes, our ceremonies. So this was a historic day for my Tsimshian people. And the day when we hit the corner and my whole village was on the island, and people from all the surrounding villages were also come to witness the Tsimshian people bring back their culture. That day and what all the historical cultural moment inspired people and strengthened people that were not even on the journey. People came out of their homes feeling that pride, feeling that cultural pride, knowing that this is a historic day. And people, no matter who it was it could be a teacher, could be a son, an uncle, could be a perpetrator, it could be someone who lived a life of hurt and harm, someone who lived a life of sadness and grief. But that day, when we used our cultural strength and the ways of our ancestors, That day, strength was spread out to the whole entire community. That day, perpetrators were not perpetrating. That day, people gained strength and they were able to walk out of their homes. And that beach was, this is only a small picture. That beach was filled up with over 1,000 people watching us land. And I get emotional looking at this picture because it was at this moment when I looked around at at the young people that I brought down from my village, and they were so proud. They stood in their they stood as tall as they could in the canoes, and we all had tears in our eyes. And it was the pride, it was the strength, and it was the healing that took place from using our cultural tools, our traditional knowledge, our traditional way of life that we've always had for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. That was only taken away for its a little sliver of time in the last 200 years. And it was that moment where I knew, okay, well, we need this for my community. We need to bring this part of our culture back. So my family and I, we created a nonprofit called Lawida, Pull Together. And through our program, we created through our nonprofit, we created a lot of programs that were focused on community healing, on bringing families together, people working together, people interacting and talking, and that was a huge part of our culture. Texting wasn't a part of our culture. Sitting down in front of someone and ask them, how are you doing? And saying those words. So we always have all programs were focused on bringing people together. So through our program, one of the programs that we do, we have a biker club. The kids love calling it the biker gang, where in the spring and summer, a couple times a month, every kid in the village fills up the street, and we all take to the streets on our bikes. Put the phones away, and we do this together. And it was one of the most beautiful events that I've ever been on, is seeing kids come together and connect on a level where they're building relationships, and on a level where it creates a space where an opportunity to teach and an opportunity to inspire and heal. And another program that we have is a traditional harvesting. The young people and their parents, we all go out and harvest our traditional foods: salmon, crab, octopus. This day we are harvesting sea asparagus. And sea asparagus is a superfood. It is one of the most healthiest, beneficial foods you could ever eat. If you were to only eat sea asparagus for the rest of your life, you would have everything that you need: the protein, the iron, all the vitamins. So we would all go out and harvest our traditional foods. And then the young people that were in the biker gang and in our youth drum group and dance group, we would feed our elders once a month a traditional meal, further bridging that gap of the young people and the elders, to learn from one another, to talk and connect with one another. And through the programs over the years, it's continued to grow and to support. And I'm so grateful for everybody supporting and having that desire. No matter who I talk to, no matter where you are from, everybody has a desire to do better and to want to help. And sometimes a lot of people don't know how to help, and they have never helped, and that's okay. It's but that makes me want to say we have a responsibility to help people, to just have them show up. And one of those two words are words that will always stick with me. My cousin, who is a woman who lives in a couple communities over, she was asked from other men, what do you need for men in your world? What do you need from men in your community? And just to show up. even if you have never been involved in this space, even if you don't know what to say, or if you're worried, if you're worried that you have never even been involved in this work, just show up, because there are people in there that can teach you, people in there that can share that strength, just like in the Canoe Journey. We get our strength from each other. So after these programs, working with my brothers who are on this panel, got me involved in the work of prevention, ending hurt and harm, and here in my village and in Alaska in general. So my brother and I, we wanted to start a circle, a men's circle, where men are able to focus on themselves and help each other reflect and do the necessary healing that we need to do to be better human beings, to be able to finally stand next to our woman and honor our role in our communities. So we opened up our doors for a paddle class where we had all of our men come, or the plan was to have all of our men come twice a month to our traditional longhouse. And we supplied all the wood, all the carving tools. First week, we would put flyers up. We want to end domestic violence in our community. There's going to be salmon, juice, coffee. First week, nobody showed up. I said, okay, well, this is something that's going to take time. We just have to stay consistent. Second time we opened our doors, nobody showed up. Third time, nobody showed up. 3 months went by when we opened up our doors to create these circles. And my brother and I this is my paddle that I did by myself. There was no other men involved, not yet. And then so it was at a point where I almost wanted to give up, because my brother and I felt so alone. So we continued to launch all our other programs, our elders dinner, our biker gang. And then we said, okay, we're going to do it one more time. And we're going to change the wording around. Not going to have ending domestic violence. Men's circles. Men's healing. And that night, we had one of our first man show up. And it was the father of one of the kids in our biker gang. And then the 2 weeks later, when we opened up our doors again, we had a son of one of the elders that we fed. And we kept on, every time we opened our doors, it was another individual who was associated somehow with our other programs. And that was a huge light bulb moment for me. I was like, oh, we were going about it so wrong. We were just solely focused on ending domestic violence, when our indigenous people, it's all about balance. We took a holistic approach, and especially here in our small communities, everything is connected. Everything influences another part of someone's life, one way or another. And when we took this approach, and once I realized this, we have to take a holistic approach. And it helped us realize that because we were able to help in so many other places, we were able to create space and build a foundation and build the trust of the men in my community. Now, I'm not saying for everybody to go out and put their hands in every single aspects of their life, because I don't want anybody to get burned out. But just like in that canoe, because there was people working in construction, there was people going to college, there was myself, and there was students. We all learned from each other. We all relied on one another, and 17 other people on my canoe were relying on me. And just because these individuals aren't focused on prevention, if they're there for the healing, we still can get strength from them. So that's how. So over the years, our program stayed consistent until COVID happened, and now we have a lot of our our men's support group here and our men's circles taking place every Tuesday here in Alaska. And we are working on opening it up to even more days through different regions through Alaska. But I just wanted to share that moment when we realized when we took a community approach to help the people in our community to heal, and when we use our cultural tools to help move us in the direction. And no matter what part of this land that you were on, you could use a cultural tool. Like my brothers, they would use the horses to help the men heal. Well, here in on the coast, we use our canoes. So no matter what part of the world you're in, you could use your cultural tools that our ancestors have always used to help your community. It could be beading, it could be making regalia, it could just be creating a circle where you supply cookies and coffee. Because connecting with one another, that's traditional. That's people that don't, sometimes people think, well, I don't know the language, I don't know the songs, and well, that's okay. Well, you know how to talk, just sitting down with someone and connecting with someone. Those are the cultural tools. So be able to identify what has kept your people healthy for thousands and thousands of years and using those. And I'll say it again, our traditional values and our traditional way of life can solve all of our modern day problems. And so this was one of the paddles that was finished in our men's circle. And this was a brother of mine who had a pretty hard life, and he's been involved in domestic violence. But when we were able to come together and get support from one another, just like on our canoes, knowing that everybody in that circle, he was relying on all of us, and we were relying on him for us to work together to take these steps forward. And he has this paddle. I was telling him, I was like, brother, you got to use this. He goes, no, it's too nice, and it means so much to me. So he has this on his wall hanging up to remind him of Mowaida. We have to pull together, on everything we do. We taking that community approach to help heal, to help inspire, and help strengthen. So that's just a little piece of what we're doing here in Southeast Alaska, getting the young men and the men involved in our men's healing program. And now that I'm working with ANDVSA, Alaska Network Domestic Violence, as a men's engagement advocate, I am, we incorporating all the traditional values into helping inspire our men and helping and learning from our men. Thank you all. Thank you all for listening, and I'm very honored to be in this space.
Thank you. All right. So we're going to switch over to Canada. And let's see. There goes Mujabi. All right. So now I'll leave it up to you three. Looks like we'll probably have time for you all to wrap up this session, and then we'll try to catch any chats or any questions in the chat. And then we'll probably pick up on the discussion questions we had planned tomorrow. So we'll let you all finish it out till the top of the hour. If Munjabi's busy with his phone calls, we'll just let you go hard.
I'm hoping you can press that button and be on that phone at the same time. Oh, here we go. It's already.
Gabby, order me a large all dressed. All right, buddy.
So this is you, Pray, the creation.
Okay. Sago, everybody. With the creation story, with our people, there's like every struggle that we go through, every hard time, every good time, everything with gratitude, with grief, you know. In our creation story, it can all be kind of explained to us or understood by us, that we're not alone when we go through these things, and that people have gotten better in the past by returning to our culture, by returning to our ways, and it gives us, you know, with myself, there was always like an empty spot in here, and it started in childhood. I know that now. I didn't know it for a long time, but there was always that emptiness there that I was trying with. Later on in my life, when I became an adult, I tried to fill it with drugs and alcohol, power, money, control. I tried to fill that with those things, and it always ended up in an abusive way. You know, I always ended up with that power, or abusing the money or the people, myself. When I put that alcohol and drugs down, what really helped me was to reconnect with the strength of our ancestors. Me knowing, like, doing some research on our history and asking our elders and our faith keepers and our spiritual leaders, just to speak to me, just to talk and share whatever you can, whatever you want to. It became like my my good path. Every part of it was leading me into it. And, you know, it was missing in my life since childhood, since I was not allowed to go to Longhouse, just before going to school. I think it was at the same time when I went to that school, and everything else was shut off. Even the language, I don't speak the language no more. My parents wouldn't speak the language to me, and they would speak it to everybody else, but they wouldn't speak it to us children. It really hurt me for a long time. So getting back to my, you know, I want to live a good way. I want to live in an honorable way as a man. I have roles and responsibilities that have been pointed out to me in our traditions, and I was not living up to that at all. I was totally reversed and creating more harm than ever. Going back to the traditions and the medicines and the ceremony, I was at a place where it was a point of no return. I was either gonna end it, or I was gonna put myself into our medicines and our ways, and put that drink down, that drugs, that violence, that crime. You know, in order for me to change and to continue this way of life, I have to stop doing those things. You know, I can't dabble with those things and still want to live a good life. You know, I have to not be violent anymore. Don't be committing crimes. You know, this right here, let me see, I want to show you somebody. I want to introduce you to this guy right here. His name's Cohen. His name is it means he brings the great change. He was born in the fall, just before the fall hit. That's what his name is, because of that. That's the time of nature. In my experience with my own life and my own family's life, All the teachings are in nature. Everything that we can be told or shown or taught is all in nature. And when I understand that I am connected with every part of nature, I'm not only connected with them. I not only need them for my survival, but they need me for their survival too. What we say when we do our Honda Gully Wadekwa is we're saying, that means we all bring our minds together as one. Buddy that's listening right now, we bring our minds together as one. And we welcome with the greetings and thanks to this element of creation. So we're reestablishing that connection for each level of creation. I just want to let you guys know that everything you are doing affects me, and everything I do affects you. And if somebody's suffering down the road right here, I can see them. They're suffering, I'm suffering too. I have to remember that. If one person's suffering, then I'm suffering too. So we got to keep trying to work and keep trying to just reach out that hand, show them the sweat lodge, invite them, whether they show or not. We did our part. And, like Johan said, at first there was only a few, it was just the hardcore, sweat hogs. But then after a while, it was 17, 18, 19, 20, 20 men that are in that circle with us. They're in that ceremony with us. They're not committing crimes. They're not beating people up. They're not beating their spouses up. They're not beating their children up. They're sitting in that ceremony with us, and they feel bad over what they've done. Some people never feel that, and they continue that for the rest of their lives. These men felt that. Go for allowing me to ramble on. I want to hand it over to Harvey now. He's like, when I first began this in 1997, I believe, I started being reintroduced to our culture and our traditions. Harvey was there, and I remember that day. Just like Jobby, when his day came, when he walked in that sweat lodge, and I remember that day because it's a very important day. So I want to hand it off to Harvey and let him make it huge.
Yeah, so like he's saying, and like everybody shared so far, it's taken those similarities, and I know from that standpoint, when I refused this journey, and I equate it today to the Jedi Knight. I have the ability to deflect truth, commitment, responsibility, respect, honor. I'm so good at deflecting all this. And from this insane in the membrane, the mind, how it interprets it. So those words, kind of, sort of, maybe, to make me believe I'm not really that bad. So I have a right. We have a creed that as a man, I have a God-given right to be stupid, and I exercise my right often. So it's to understand, no, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. You tired of going to jail? Yeah. Well, why do you keep getting arrested? Because. No. Look this way. Look this way. And just like you said, from that horses, from that canoe, from that, wherever it starts somewhere. So we have the picture here of smudging. To start your day off, go through that smudging, get our minds right, get to feel that better, understand that thing. Then we had, like at the beginning of this, I did the Honda Gully Wadekwa, that Thanksgiving address. So like Prey was just saying about how to get into that circle with all creation. So I think of Oma Takiasi, right? We're all related to all that's above us, all that's below us, all that's behind us, all that's in front of us, all our relations. We say Aguego Kachile to all my family, my relations. It's all connected, all across Turtle Island, and to see where we are in that connection. So how do we set the intent for the day? I want to help my mind to understand these truths that I have to see. So going through that smudging ceremony, that medicine bundle, going through that Ohan, the God of Wadikwa, and one of the pictures, go ahead, go to the next one, Chabi. So we go through that in the creation story, how everything's on there, just like he was saying when we were saying, you have the birds, the animals, the sky life, everything on the Turtle Island. How do we connect to that? Next one. The two-way value system, how that fight is in our minds. You know, are we using our traditional way of thinking, or are we using colonization? And then we get confused in between them. So how do we identify? And where do I identify? I got a picture behind me that shows three-way, the hierarchy, modernization, holistic thinking. How do we fit into this? So it start to understand. Go to the next one. Where do we saying the healthy role model shit? And you see white bisons in there too, that it comes to acknowledge these things. So where do we get our information from? So it's starting to research and taking these bits out of Turtle Islands around the world, Western, Eastern, Southern, whatever, when those words are pleasing to the mind, to the psyche, to the spirit, to the heart. Go to the next one. That we can start to identify. There's the three-way right there, the European model, modernization, holistic thinking. Which one are we in? We're fighting all the time. Which mind am I using? How am I conducting myself? Where is it coming from? We get into the medicine wheel and see that. And I like just go to why am I? Why am I feeling this way? Why am I thinking like this? Why am I allowing you to make me feel like this? Then going into the who am I? I need to find the identity. This who am I? Like my brother Jabi said earlier, he said, I was a scumbag. I never forget that day. I went into the director's office and said, I got to leave this place. And he goes, why? I said, because you made me a scumbag. I said, I wasn't a scumbag when I got here. He says, oh, no, you were a scumbag the whole time. He goes, what I did is made you get honest and look at it. I'm like, well, I don't like it. He says, oh, so you like being a scumbag? And I'm like, well, no. He goes, all right, finish reading the book. See what it says. So it goes up to the black color. Where am I going with this? Why am I? Who am I? Where am I going with this? Then the white color, spiritual. When am I going to get there? When am I going to feel better? You said I'll feel better if I do these things. When? When we allow it. That's when. When you accept it, that's when. When you surrender, that's when. Wow, you know, so it goes back. It goes into it. So where do we get there? Go ahead. Switch. So there's the sweat lodge. It's in there also. The new beginnings. Right now, we just went through the equinox, the new beginning. We're getting into springtime, infancy, sunrise, all those things, and you go around through your rounds in the sweat lodge. We go in as infants, wondering how hot is it going to get? I wonder if I'm going to whine. I wonder if I'm going to stand tall. Am I going to represent? Am I going to tap out? I hope this guy shuts up. I hope this one ain't invited. You know, what do we go through? All this emotion, all this, you know, we collect garbage. We're emotional hoarders. Just like Greg, just like Johan said, from that childhood, what have we collected? So what are we taking in there with us? How many fears, how many guilts, and where did it come from? So we have to look at that and, you know, try to take it easy. That's why I get in the middle. Say if I'm pouring the water, I get newcomers and I got sweat hogs in there. Sweat hogs want it 200 degrees. Newcomers only want it just run a little sweat. No, just make it a little uncomfortable, you know? So I got to navigate between the two and try to help everybody, because being the pouring the water, I have to watch that. So there it is from an elder standpoint, protecting both sides, protecting everybody. See, I got to be conscious of that. I can't just say, oh, we're warriors. We're going to make it so hot the skin will peel. Then you're a real man. Wow, you know. So I got to be able to explain that, you know. If we want that sweat, we got to have the men in there that's going to make it through that sweat. I don't want to bring a first timer in there and scare him that he never comes back. So I got to get away from critical thinking. I got to look at enlightenment and lift that up and say, it's okay. Let's see what we can do. Next one. There's the mind map. It come from the Wild Variety, but I changed it a little bit. I got the emotional all the way to the east, mental in the south, physical in the west, spiritual in the north. And my emotion is a reaction, my mental is a plan, my physical is the action, and the spiritual is the outcome. So how fast does that go from 0 to 100? I like to call it tap backs. You know, as kids, we start the tap back, right? Tap back, then it escalates. Next thing you know, first one that cries to mom is the loser. But when mom comes in, she punishes both of us. It's like, I'll give you a whipping, you know? And it's like, well, wait a minute now, you know? But how do we learn? Where's that learned behavior come from? So it's to map it out. Where does it come from? What's my thinking? What's the process of that thinking? Again, where does it come from? Then how do I feel when I get to that point? It's like doing the practical joke and somebody gets hurt. Now I feel bad. I got guilt and shame and remorse. What do? First thing I want to do is take all my marbles and go home. So I ain't playing with you. You know? So how does that play out? So then I do another sheet, which would be the solutional. What's some of those things that my mind, what do I have to rechange in my mind when I'm starting that slippery slope to relapse? My wife is getting me angry again. Why is she doing this to me? Well, I got to quit looking at my wife and look at myself and say, well, what am I doing that she feels the need to come back at me? So what am I saying? Am I being disrespectful? Am I being analytical? Am I being judgmental? Am I being confrontational? See, what's going on in me? So how do we get to those places of understanding? And it's like you say, Greg, we call it soul retrieval here. We go to the scene of the crime. We go back to the scene of the crime, we get our spirit back. We get our power back. Because when we look at that, what happened as a child, when we were innocent and vulnerable, versus being a man now to go back there and know that there is perpetrators. It's not our fault. There's perpetrators that prey on people, manipulate, lie, steal, cheat. And then, so we have to look at it from saying, yeah, I didn't know any better. So I got to forgive myself and move forward. How do I do that? If there's no one here to allow me to make that journey, I'll be stuck there. You know, I'll be looking through my trauma lens. I'm looking through my trauma lens, right? I usually swear. I'm not going to swear, but I usually swear because being in a men's organization, I do swear once in a while, and I'm working on it. But if I got trauma lens on, everything I see is through that trauma lens. Because of this ugly back here, I see everything as ugly. So until I heal that and take that lens off, and then it's beautiful again. Wow. So it's just understanding that. So.
All right.
Are we done?
Just a couple minutes left. I just want to see if there's any questions from anyone before we close up. And if there isn't, then there's any closing that we would like to do.
I'd like to say something with when Harvey was talking about like working with the men in ceremony and with cultural teachings and morals and values. To do it along with, we don't separate it from, say, the counseling and the Western world type of treatment. You know, we give them the choice. They can go this way, they can go that way, or they can combine it. Whatever they're comfortable with at the moment in their life. That's what we try and work with, to make it easier to accept it, not do those Jedi things that Harvey, like I think that's Karate Kid too. He does that. You know, he does that too. But to just to make them more comfortable as they like, and then they open up their acceptance a little bit more, and they're able to look at themselves instead of looking at, oh, that's their fault. They did that to me, so I did this. To bring it together, you know, as a truly holistic method, you know. So bring that medicine, bring that spirit, bring that culture, and then also bring whatever else that needs to help, you know, because all these gifts of other people have been brought here for us, you know, just as our gifts have been brought here for everybody. You know, we can't hoard it or share or keep it here, you know. If I keep it here, it's not a gift, it's a possession. So in order to share it out, then it becomes that gift again. Other people can take that and carry it with themselves.
All right, thank you, Pray. Harvey, would you be willing to do a closing prayer for us, please?
Okay, what I like to do when I close is the O Great Spirit prayer. I find that's very uniquely suited to many of the activities. So, O Great Spirit, whose voice I hear in the winds, whose breath gives life to all the world, hear me. I come before you, one of your children. I am small and weak, and I need your strength and wisdom. Let me walk in beauty. Make my eyes ever behold the red and purple sunset. Make my hands respect the things you have made, my ears sharp to hear your voice. Make me wise, I may know the things you have taught my people, the lessons you have hidden in every leaf and rock. I seek strength not to be superior to my brothers and sisters, but to be able to fight my greatest enemy, myself. Make me ever ready to come to you with clean hands and straight eyes, so when life fades as the fading sunset, my spirit may come to you without shame. Yeah.
Oh. All right. All right, Miigwech, everyone. I really appreciate everyone taking the time and being here, and our panelists for being here. And that we'll look forward to having you all tomorrow. Any closing comments, Craig?
Well, I would
just thank you all for being here.
Oh,
Craig. Yeah, thank you. If you want to say a word about tomorrow's plan.
So tomorrow we're going to get into more of the tools. We're going to pick up on some of the stuff about what we want to see, some of the things we're going to get into today, but we really want to talk about the work that we're doing and how we take this in to make it real practical and a little bit more hands-on.
Well, with that, I don't know how we say goodbye, but
yeah.
So long.
Yeah.
Everyone.
We will see you.